Good evening, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your third and final video blog of the night for Sunday night, January 11th, 2015, 8:27 p.m. in Berwick, Massachusetts, about 28 degrees. Tomorrow morning we could get some snow showers and colding and some sleep pellets, maybe a colding to an inch in some spots, but that's about it. No major storms in sight, and that's good, but sooner or later we're going to get a blizzard. I know it. I just feel it. Some news to report. The Packers beat the Cowboys by a score of 26-21 to advance to the NFC title game next Sunday at 3 p.m. on Fox against the Seahawks. And the Colts beat the Broncos by a score of 24-13, meaning that the Colts will play against the Pats for the AFC title on Sunday, next Sunday, at 6:30 p.m. on CBS. Peyton Manning's lost again in the playoffs. He's one and done again. And that's about it on that. My third and final video blog subject of the night's the personality profile. Tonight's personality profile is about one of the most famous quarterbacks in NFL history. I'm talking about Broadway Joe himself, Joe Namath. Joe Namath was one of the most colorful and controversial figures in NFL history. He played 13 seasons in the NFL with the Jets and the Rams, and he had a Hall of Fame career. Here's the story about Joe. Joe was born and he grew up in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. Joe played 3 sports in high school: football, baseball, and basketball. And he even dunked in basketball games he was kind of an innovator in that, because usually high schoolers never dunked in high school games back in those days. And Joe was a very good baseball player. In fact, he had several offers to play baseball after he graduated from high school. He had offers from the Reds, the Pirates, Phillies, Indians, and Yankees and Mets, but he turned down all those offers and he went to college because he promised his parents that he would be going to college to get a degree. And he was recruited by Notre Dame and Penn State for football because he was a great high school quarterback. But Joe selected Alabama Crimson Tide, and the coach at the time that recruited him was the great Paul Bear Bryant. Joe had to sit out his freshman year because of freshmen didn't play on the varsity team in any sport back in those days, so he sat out his freshman year. And he played 3 seasons for the Crimson Tide varsity football team as a quarterback. He had pretty good stats. He had 203 pass completions, 374 attempts, 54.3% pass completions, and he had like 2,115 yards, and he threw about 45 touchdown passes, and he was a great quarterback, and he led the Crimson Tide to promise. And he was drafted by 2 teams. He was drafted by the NFL St. Louis Cardinals in 1965 as the 12th overall pick in the 1965 NFL draft, and he was drafted the first overall pick in the AFL draft in the 1965 by the New York Jets, and there was a bidding war between the Jets and the Cardinals to see where would Joe go. And both of them duked it out, but Joe decided to go to the New York Jets to sign with them, and he got a whopping $427,000 to play football for a year. In 1965, that's a lot of money back then. And he brought credibility to the AFL, and this was also the year 1965 that the AFL had a new television contract with NBC, and Joe played in the biggest media market in the world, New York, so that brought credibility to the AFL, also brought credibility to the contract for NBC. And Joe became a star in New York. He played 12 seasons with the Jets. He was the 1965 AFL Rookie of the Year 4 times. He played in the AFL All-Star Games 3 times. 2 times he was the AFL MVP. 3 times he was an All-Pro, second team for the AFL. He was the first quarterback in any professional league to throw for 4,000 passing yards in the season. That was back in 1967. Joe was Super Bowl III MVP, and Joe made a bold prediction that he guaranteed that the Jets were going to beat the Colts in Super Bowl III on January 12th, 1969, and people were laughing at that because the first 2 Super Bowls, the NFL dominated the AFL in the Super Bowl games completely, and the Colts were heavy favorites. They were at least 17-point favorites. But Joe led them to the Jets to Super Bowl 16-7. That was one of the biggest sports upsets of all time to date. And Joe guaranteed his word and stuff like that. And Joe was awesome. He was great. He was a great quarterback. He had some little bit of controversy in 1969 that he owned a bar and a nightclub called Bachelor's 3 in New York City. It was kind of controversial because Bachelor's 3 was tied to the mafia and gangsters, and the NFL did not really want a player have an interest in something that was associated with crime and stuff. And Commissioner Pete Rozelle of the NFL said Joe had to sell off his interest of Bachelor's 3. He didn't want to at first. He even threatened to retire a couple of times, but he was talked out. But the NFL talked Joe into selling the interest of the Bachelor's 3, and he reluctantly agreed to it. And Joe usually wore fur coats when he was on the sideline and stuff like that. He got so many endorsements while he was in New York. He became very, very famous. Also, Joe played in the first Monday Night Football game in 1970 against the Cleveland Browns, and Joe was a very, very great quarterback, but he suffered a lot of knee injuries. His first knee injury he suffered was not in college in 1964. He was injury-free through the first 5 years of his career, but he started to suffer knee problems, missed significant time. The Jets weren't a great team after they won the Super Bowl in 1969. They became a mediocre team at best. And Joe, was traded at the end of the 1976 season to the Rams. He played his last year with the Rams, but his knees were killing him and stuff like that. He had to retire from the NFL in 1977 at the age of 34. He had an awesome career. He had career stats 1,886 pass completions in 3,762 attempts, 50.1 quarterback rating, 173 touchdown passes, 200 interceptions, and 27,633 yards. Joe was retired, and he went into a lot of advertisement and commercials and television appearances as himself. He did some acting and stuff. He was voted into Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1985. He also was a color man for the Monday Night Football in 1985 as well, but he didn't like that gig because he kind of had to criticize players, and he didn't really want to do that. And then Joe actually auditioned to host the revived version of Family Feud, which was going to be on CBS in 1988, but he lost out to Ray Combs, and Joe continued to be everywhere. He even returned to become a color man on NBC telecasts of the NFL for a couple of years and stuff like that. Joe's number 12 was retired by the Jets and stuff. He was a goodwill ambassador to the Jets and stuff. He had an infamous incident during a special Sunday Night Football game on ESPN, which was shown on Saturday on December 20th, 2003, when Joe was being interviewed by Susie Colbert on ESPN, and Joe said something very ridiculous to Susie. "I want to kiss you." Joe was drunk as a skunk that night. He admitted it, and he was like battling alcoholism during that time, and he had to go to rehab. But it was good that Joe fought his demon and stuff like that. But that was a very infamous incident, very embarrassing stuff. And it's probably very infamous. "I want to kiss you." He said that repeatedly. But that's no joke. But that's what a lot of people maybe know Joe for doing that than his football career, which is kind of, you don't want to go there. And that's about it on Joe Namath. I'll be back, Facebook friends, YouTube followers, and Twitter followers tomorrow. 3 more video blogs. The first video blog will be about the top 10 Houston Astros players of all time. The second video blog will be about the first of the 13 WWE Royal Rumbles we're going to review. First one would be 1988 Royal Rumble from the Cops Coliseum in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. This was the one that aired on the USA Network on January 24th, 1988. I'm going to review that. And the third and final video blog of the night, on tomorrow night, will be about the classic TV sitcom, The Bob Newhart Show. Do 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 do. That's a theme song. And there'll be no personality profile on Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to be doing top 10 lists Monday and Tuesday, and then I'll have 2 days off, and then the personality profile will be Wednesday and Thursday, and then they'll have that 2 days off, and it's going to be vice versa, 2 days for the 13 days I do the Royal Rumble reviews. It's like 222, like 222 Front Street, the former home of Hooters of Boston, okay? See you later, Facebook friends, YouTube followers, and Twitter followers. Good night. See you tomorrow morning.